Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the Event Industry News Podcast. My name is James Dixon, wishing everybody a very good morning, afternoon or evening, whenever or wherever you are tuning into today's podcast from. Today's podcast is brought to you by our sponsor, Engage, powered by D2I Systems, winner of Best Event Management Platform at the 2017 Event Technology Awards. To learn how Engage can make your business more profitable, visit d2isystems.com/engage. And on today's episode, we offer a very warm welcome to a first-time guest on the show, Olivia Collier. Olivia, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Olivia is the head of client services GB for Verve Live and is on the show today to talk about the work they do on behalf of Diageo and particularly for Guinness at the Six Nations. That may well spill, if you forgive the pun, into talking about some of the other brands that Verve Live handle on behalf of Diageo and some of the other work that they do. But first of all, Olivia, as I've said, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit, first of all, about Verve Live as an organisation and fundamentally what it is you do.
Great. Okay. So Verve Live is we're a European live creative agency specialising in event and brand activation. We work with a number of big global brands building great activation. So that could be consumer experience, it could be conferences or sponsorship or launches. So we have a really broad range. We work with 5 of the top 10 global brands, and we've been around for 27 years. And we have a really strong client list: Diageo, Coca-Cola, Unilever, Google, Huawei, and Facebook being the top ones. Mm-hmm. We take probably a slightly different approach to other live event agencies. Rather than disrupt the fan experience, we believe that activation should add value. So we are really keen to make sure that consumers opt in to our brand experiences to provide deeper, more meaningful engagement. You know, it's about developing simple but engaging activations which consumers can enjoy, share, and remember for the future. Sure. And this approach has proven to increase purchase consideration moving forwards. We have offices in London, Dublin, and Amsterdam, and a really broad range of clients and experiences, as I said before.
And as I mentioned at the start of the episode, I suppose the main reason that we've got you on the show today is to talk about the work that Verve Live did with Guinness, with the Guinness brand, and the brand activation that was implemented during the Six Nations rugby tournament. For our international listeners, our international followers, Six Nations is the annual rugby union tournament that takes place between England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Italy, and France. And for many, many years now, Olivia, Guinness has been a hugely associated brand with that particular tournament, hasn't it?
Yes, Guinness has been in rugby in various guises for many years. They were Guinness sponsors of the Guinness of the Premiership, as the Viva Premiership as it is now. And I think they were sponsored for about 10 years. They sponsor England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland. Who have I left off? We're also title sponsor of the Pro 14, which again is a bit similar to the Aviva Premiership, but it involves Ireland, Wales, Scotland, Italy, and South African rugby clubs. So we do have Guinness has a really strong relationship with rugby fans, and we're always working and striving to improve that relationship and that engagement. We really want to be part of the rugby community, and everything we do is focused on building that relationship with our fans.
And in terms of the opportunities then that association has from a brand activation point of view, which is where you guys come in and your area of specialism, I suppose one of the huge differences between rugby and football, which is a common comparison, is the fact that there is you can take drinks during the Six Nations. You can actually sit in the stadium and have a drink with you whilst you're watching the match. There's not so much this culture of just a bar outside the stadium where you have a beer beforehand and go in. Does that in turn then give you more opportunities as a live events agency and a brand activation agency to actually take the brand in different directions and do things at stuff like a rugby tournament? Yeah,
I mean, I think, we work hard at Verve to look at how we can create those memorable brand experiences for fans. Mm-hmm. And this, it's all about, for Guinness, it's all about creating that environment that people will come to and dwell. So, you know, that it does give us lots of opportunity. And Guinness is all about communion and people coming together, regardless of who they support. They come together at the bar to talk about their passion point, which is rugby. And that is why Guinness and Rugby has been such a successful partnership. I mean, at the rugby grounds, we do work hard to make sure that, you know, we are creating that really great immersive experience. So we create and build big pop-up bars at most of the venues. So at Twickenham, we have the Guinness Surge Bar, which is a 35 metre by 15 metre enormous immersive experience bar in the West Fan Village. So we have thousands of people come there pre-match. It's a really great environment to drink in. It's obviously a nice shelter from the elements because it's always cold during Six Nations and the Autumn Internationals. But we also then look at what other factors can we bring to make it better. So, for example, we have bring in the Six Nations trophy. We could have a legend, an England rugby legend, serving at the bar and kind of having that chat with fans who are ordering their drinks. Just creating that unique environment, giving that special kind of magic that you'd expect from Guinness. But we also make sure that we're giving fans that quick quality pints. So we have Guinness waitresses that go round the Surge Bar exterior around the West Fan Village, taking orders from pints, coming backstage, getting them, and then taking them back to the fans. So it's just trying to think about those kind of elements that fans would want. Likewise, we put on really engaging entertainment for fans. We've got the Guinness fan stage right next to the Guinness Surge Bar in the West Fan Village, where we have pre-match, we have rugby Q&A, so we get that kind of real rugby insight that rugby fans really love talking about, that kind of, I guess it's banter, it's rugby banter, which everyone, you know, at rugby loves to talk about. And post-match, we have a really cool band that plays music, and the Surge Bar and the West Fan Village becomes a kind of dance floor, if you like, and everyone stays and has a really great night. And so, you know, it's those kind of elements. We have parasols across the Surge Bar outside with heaters in, so you can get warm and sheltered if you want to, but you can also go out and enjoy the music. So, you know, it's about creating, within our Surge Bar environment, it's about creating a really great atmosphere. In Scotland, we do something similar. We have a Guinness inflatable pint, which is a huge inflatable, which stands out. It's very visible from afar, very Guinness, and it's got really a top, white top and black for the rest of it. And inside it's a bar that fits in about 250 people. So inside there we've got a bar. We do Q&As with legends and current rugby players. We do music post-match. So again, it's all about providing the fans there a really great environment. Similar at Principality Stadium as well. So, you know, all of that, it all comes together, you know, at the stadium to providing great immersive experience. If you like, online, we also look to try and do something similar. This year we had the Guinness Greenwood series, which is a new idea that we came up with. So I think social media for Guinness has been focused traditionally on low but high quality volume of posting. You know, so we did the kind of very designed, pre-prepared visuals, which work really well if it's effective, it's on brand and gets great engagement. But we wanted to do something that actually engaged the social community in a more live environment. So we held we've created this kind of live social media campaign that helps Guinness continue to build their rugby credentials with their online audience. So we had a number of events at key Guinness pubs with Will Greenwood hosting, fans in the background, you know, chatting about what's going on. And Will would do live commentary on England matches with a legend from the opposing team. So, it was created really great it's that rugby banter, and it's coming together to talk about rugby. And that was a huge success. So, I think everything we do is about trying to engage with rugby fans on a very rugby focused level.
And I guess it engaged them in a way that fits in with the brand ultimately as well, because everything is geared around the brand of Guinness. And when we think about it, when you say the word Guinness, imagine people are instantly conjured up images of very social, lively bars, people chatting, people laughing, people enjoying a good time. There's a certain lifestyle that it instantly conjures up just by saying the name.
Absolutely, and that's what we strive to constantly kind of make it better and better, and to people continue to have that belief. And it's very much about thinking what we want those fans to think. Yeah, let's go to that Guinness bar again. In the stadium, it was great. We had a great time there. Great pre-match, great post-match. Let's go there. And obviously, we also try and drive people to the pubs around the stadium. We do a lot in those pubs as well to make sure there's great Guinness visibility on match day.
Sure,
so we don't want to take away from the pubs, but what we want to do is to make sure that when fans come to the stadium, they have an equally great experience.
Well, I guess, and it's a good point that you make there that perhaps is sometimes overlooked, is that especially with the drinks brands, if you're creating a temporary brand activation zone outside a stadium, that's fantastic. You want as many people to utilize that as possible. But for a drinks brand, when you have got these fixed locations that are trading all year round, you equally want to make sure that they're benefiting from the work you're doing to expose the brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's paramount that the commercial team, with Guinness, they're achieving success as well. It can't just be about sponsorship, trying to get everyone there. It's very much about making sure, anyone who's ever been to Twickenham or Edinburgh, Murrayfield, or Principality, know that all those bars are absolutely rammed. So, and obviously that's the kind of priority, make sure they're rammed. And then anyone else who's left, we want them to come to the stadium.
When it comes to the creative process, this is obviously the Six Nations takes place every year, and itself has evolved. It was the Four Nations and the Five Nations and the Six Nations. And you mentioned that Guinness has this long association with the sport and with this tournament itself. How difficult does that make the creative process year on year, so that the stuff that you're doing on behalf of Diageo and on behalf of Guinness is continually evolving and is continually being sort of rethought? Is the creative process very much driven by Verve Live, or is it a combination of working with the client to see what they want to do and what ideas you can come up with?
It's a mixture, I think. I think we are sponsors of all the home union stadiums or clubs, so we have to maintain neutrality, which helps in a way, because it means that we can standardize our creative thoughts, if you like, because it can't be too specific to England, or it has to be kind of Guinness, if you like, and at its core it's Guinness. But Verve tend to drive the experiential in the stadium and what we do there, within the kind of, obviously within the confines of what we know the rights holders will accept. But we have worked with them for many years and have a really good understanding of what they want, and obviously any activation that we do has to be mutually beneficial, if you like, for Guinness and the rights holders. And
a lot of the conversation so far has revolved around talking about Guinness and the activation that they're doing with the rugby. But you also mentioned that as an organisation, Verve Live works for Diageo, who themselves represent and own a lot of the major drinks brands. So when you're outside of Guinness itself, what are some of the other events and brands that you've worked with?
I mean, so obviously, yes, we talked about Guinness and rugby. We also manage all Guinness's racing sponsorships. So that's Cheltenham Festival, where we create a big Guinness village there, which everyone who's been to Cheltenham has been to the Guinness village. It's where everyone comes to, and it's a really great atmosphere. And likewise, we work hard to make sure that we do deliver that atmosphere. But also, we work more broadly with, as you say, with a number of Diageo brands. So we work with Tanqueray and Gordon's and Pimm's on the Jockey Club sponsorship. So we build again immersive experiences at Jockey Club events for those brands. We also work with Pimm's on their All England Lawn Tennis Club sponsorship, so Wimbledon. So we're in the process, obviously we're getting close to Wimbledon, starts, what is it, of months time from now. So we are, in pretty advanced stages of build there. So, again, Pimm's, it's a really great sponsorship. First time the sponsorship sponsored the event was last year. Previous to that, actually, it was just done through a catering agreement. But so now we create two really beautiful Pimm's bars with lots of kind of foliage and a really great Pimm's environment. So Pimm's is front of mind. You go to the bar and you say, wow, that I want a Pimm's because this looks great. It kind of has that, it reminds you that that's what you want to drink. And it's just about, again, that brand visibility for Pimm's All England. But we also, as you said, we work creating third space activation with a lot of Diageo brands. And so, we have a really great relationship with Diageo and really proud of our work with them.
Given how strong some of those brands are, and you mentioned Pimm's, and every single one of the major drinks brands evoke certain ways of thinking or certain sort of pictures in your head. As I mentioned with Guinness, the idea of with friends in a pub, sports perhaps on, and Pimm's will be a different one. Does that really allow you to get stuck into the creative process when you're working with any different type of brand, because you can see sort of what feeling it naturally evokes as soon as you mention that brand? Yeah,
I mean, as you say, every brand has a very different feeling. So, Pimm's, it's very English, it's very traditional, it's very premium. So everything we do has to have that kind of creative approach. So, our Wimbledon bars, it's all white tongue and groove. We have beautiful kind of ivy and bougainvillea foliage. It's very classy. It really does kind of shout premium, and that's exactly right. And whereas look at Gordon's Pink, it's more playful. And we did a kind of Gordon's Pink payday party last weekend at a bar in Manchester, where everything was pink, everything was fun. It has that kind of playful element. Tanqueray again is a bit more exotic, and so that we can create those kind of playful touches. So we have bowls of oranges, we have kind of lots of greenery, but in a kind of more fun way than Pimm's. So it gives you creative license, and you can be very different with each of those kind of environments and that creative thinking. It's great. Our creative team absolutely love it. It's like, we've got a Tanqueray brief. Yes. Because it does give you great ability to be really creative.
I bet, but the sounds of things as well, when you're working with so many different brands, and they will have a certain seasonality to them as well. Where Guinness, you're with the rugby, and that's in the early part of the year when it's still winter time. You're then moving into the spring, into the horse racing, into the summer where you've got the tennis, etc., etc. Does it give you any time at all to sort of sit back and reflect on that was really hard? How much sort of debriefing are you actually able to do once you've done these, to see what you could improve on, and what you thought you did really well?
Yeah, I mean, we do have quite a constant kind of high level of activity. We just finished the Pro 14 last weekend, and we've got Epsom this weekend. But we do make sure we get the time to debrief, review, do the right measurement and evaluation to understand what our success is, where we could do better. So absolutely, we kind of do a kind of stop, start, continue for all our events, so that we're constantly learning, constantly changing, and making sure that we are moving forwards always to achieve our KPIs and ensure success for the brands we work with.
When you talk about KPIs, brand activation is now a term that we hear so much more in the events industry than we would have done, 10, 15 years ago. And it's a massive part of the overall marketing strategy now of most brands, is the ability to actually get face to face with potential customers and get their brand or their message into the hands of their potential customers. If you're as such an experienced agency working with such experienced and significantly placed brands, what advice would you give to people who are looking at brand activation? What are some of the sort of the key things that never change from brand to brand in terms of deliverables, in terms of things that you would always make sure are integrated into something that's ultimately being a brand activation?
I think critically it's about, brands are investing more of their marketing budget in experiential, and I think the critical thing is having fans at the center of their focus. This needs to be about fans, and I think for most brands, depending, this is obviously if it's B2C kind of focus, but it needs to be about what the fans want. We need to look at at how you can turn audiences into advocates for your brand through the power of live experience. And I think everything that we do, it needs to be about a kind of simple but engaging idea that will turn those audiences just to really advocate your brand. And I think, you know, you have to look at creating a very simple brand message to consumers so that they really take that home and they remember you for something that's engaging but meaningful.
And what are some of the, I suppose, when we get actually down into the logistics of how these activation zones, and perhaps going back to Guinness at Twickenham as a reference example, how would you actually ensure or promote that interaction with the brand itself? And I'm sort of leading you down the path a little bit that might involve social media. So where you have people that are in there and they're on their phones, they're checking in on Facebook, they're taking a photo of themselves and uploading it. How are you actually encouraging that and perhaps making it even more accessible for people to do that?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's been a huge shift in consumer behaviour over the last 5 years, online and offline. And I think, you know, it's really important that we are creating a deeper, meaningful relationship online and offline. We need to cultivate that social culture and create an engaged online and an active offline community. So everything we do for our brands, I guess, has to have a social element. So, you know, for Guinness, we have our Guinness pitchside pundit who is on England rugby social media channel. So he's providing rugby insights to rugby fans. We also have the Guinness Greenwood series where we have that kind of online engagement. And I think, you know, for PIMS, again, we have online elements at Wimbledon, so that you're actually, if you're at home and you're looking at your social media, you feel part of the action, even though you're not there. But if you are there, you're creating that kind of fear of missing out. So, you know, it's at various events, we have like a flower wall, a nice Gordon's pink flower wall, if you like, where it provides a great backdrop for you to have your photograph taken that you will post on social media. So it does something for the fans, they're getting a great picture, but for Gordon's, they're providing that backdrop and they're getting that social media buzz. So I think it's really about creating that fear of missing out backdrop, if you like, for activations.
Sure. Yeah. Are there social media targets set for all of the events that you run, or for some of the events that you run? How are they monitored and targeted?
For some of the events that we run, the Guinness Greenwood series, you know, we obviously, that was a completely live social campaign, so we absolutely had a social KPI. But I think really, you know, it's not in one of our kind of list of critical deliverables in terms of a number, but it's an expectation that we will get that kind of online buzz through various methods. So I think, you know, it's important in whatever activation we create. You know, for Verve, we obviously have an activation department, we have an events department, we have a creative team, and we have a digital team, and really we like to work together, all of those elements, so everything we tend to propose has a social element.
Okay.
It's critical these days, in my mind.
You mentioned that it's not a critical deliverable. What are the critical deliverables?
I think obviously it depends on who your client is, but for Diageo, obviously it's about creating a great brand experience. It's about volume sales, you know, obviously that, you know, for sponsorship, it has to not go part of the way, it has to go part of the way to kind of having that return on investment. And those two really are the kind of critical. There are kind of elements that would, how do I say it? I'm going to start again. Sorry.
No.
In terms of deliverables, we have kind of two major deliverables that we work to for Diageo. Every brand is different, but for Diageo, it's very much about volume sales and creating a really great brand experience for fans who are coming to our environments.
Sure. What do all of the brands that they operate also deliver brand activation, or are there certain brands that have never done it before that they decide, actually, no, we would like to do something with that? How is it constantly changing? Guinness, something like that will happen year on year, I would imagine, and unless something major happens, that won't change. But how are some of the other brands brought in and out of the portfolio when it comes to actually live events?
Yeah, I think, again, Jockey Club is really where we see that happen, where, as you say, it's seasonal. So, you know, in the winter, everything's very Guinness focused. In the summer, you know, it's much more Pimm's, Gordon's, Tanqueray focused. So we definitely have that kind of seasonal bringing brands in and out depending on the time of year.
Okay.
You know, brands like Tanqueray and Gordon's haven't really done much sponsorship before. This is their first kind of, Jockey Club is the first foray into sponsorship, really, sponsorship brand activation. They are, I think they're doing some third space activation that they've done in last year. But really, this is a kind of, gin is obviously it's on a massive increase in terms of popularity. And I think that's obviously bringing in new marketing spend and focus.
When it comes to the actual physical delivery of these events, does Verve Live remain completely hands-on, and is there on-site literally helping and overseeing the build and the delivery of this, the logistics, the infrastructure that has to go in to do that? It's a complete sort of concept to completion and delivery service.
Absolutely. So we come up with the creative, we come up with the strategy. We're there on site. We obviously have a production company that we use, but we are there on site, advising them on what we want, every day, how we'd like it to come, making sure that everything's as we see it. We really stick to our creative vision. So yes, we are extremely hands-on from that kind of initial concept right through to being on the day, on match day. We are there. I'm pouring pints generally at Twickenham, making sure that we're getting as many pints out as we can. So we are a very hands-on agency, and I think that's why we're such a success. It's been so successful because we really want to achieve success for our clients, and we will push the boat out to make sure that happens.
Do you feel sometimes that agencies are overlooked for the sort of the multi-skill set that they've got to have? Because from what you've described on today's podcast, you are helping to plan and execute a major event. You're looking at the build of temporary structures. You're looking at the installation of temporary infrastructure, but you're also looking from a customer service point of view to make sure that the customers of your client are being satisfied properly, pulling pints if necessary. It sounds like you're sort of wearing about 10 different hats when you're taking on one of these jobs.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think at Verve we have multiple skill sets, and we try and make sure that we do have that broad range, so we can really be that kind of hands-on agency. I don't know if we're overlooked. We have a great relationship with Diageo, and we get work from clients because we are so hands-on and we're passionate about what we do, and I think that is what makes us kind of stand out from some other agencies.
Sure. On a personal level, when you look at the calendar, is there any sort of one or two particular events where you look at and you think, that's the one that I really, really, really look forward to?
There are multiple. I look at the calendar sometimes and go, oh my gosh, I feel so exhausted just thinking about it. But generally, obviously Pimm's and Wimbledon is a fantastic event that I think everyone loves, and we feel very proud to be activating there. Six Nations, I have loved rugby from a small child, watching it with my dad. So working at the Six Nations, I love being at Twickenham and at all the grounds. It gives you that real buzz. And going to events like the Epsom Derby. So I'm there on Friday and Saturday this weekend. It's a great race in the calendar. It's so English, and I love being. So those are my kind of three highlight events, I think.
Sure. If people want to get in touch with Verve Live and find out a little bit more about what you guys do, tell us how they would do that.
Yeah, if you look at our website, verveliveagency.co.uk, we have all sorts of information on there. All my contact details are on there. We also have a great blog that we write, and it's really interesting. Talks a lot about event and activation and kind of venues. So it's really interesting to have a look at that.
Fantastic. We've been talking on the podcast today to Olivia Collier. Olivia is the head of Client Services GB for Verve Live. And just to recap today's episode, we've been looking at the work that they do from a brand activation perspective on behalf of Diageo, and specifically for Guinness during the Six Nations Rugby. And we've referenced a lot of the stuff that they've done at Twickenham, and also some of the stuff that they've done with other major drinks brands that are owned by Diageo. And brand activation clearly plays a huge part in the ongoing marketing strategies of those particular brands. And I'm sure everybody that's listening and watching today's podcast has been to some sort of sports event where a major drinks brand has got activation zones. So hopefully on today's episode, we've really been able to talk about stuff that you've all got a reference point of, be it large or small or otherwise. Thank you very much for Olivia for joining us. Don't forget to follow us as well on our own social media platforms. @Event Newsblog is the Twitter handle, and search for us on all of the other types of platforms that are out there, and you will find us. The podcast itself is brought to you by our sponsor, Engage, powered by D2I Systems, winner of Best Event Management Platform at the 2017 Event Technology Awards. To learn more about how Engage can make your business more profitable, visit d2isystems.com/engaged. And there we are. There you have it. We've reached the end of another episode of the Event Industry News podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much again to our guest, Olivia Collier from Verve Live. And we will see you all on the next episode of the podcast. Thank you very much. And goodbye to you.